from our site, and we targeted some of our kids that were high levels of truancy and within our school, just trying to put things in place and see, there's certain things that the judge can do that we from the school side can't do. And
Sure.
so, they can go into the homes and, and meet with the families and things
Sure.
like that. And, work on different plans, and then they provide incentives for when the kids just make little small increases. And so they turn into larger increases. And so the truancy diversion program is great. Most of the high schools and a lot of junior high schools have some version of that program. We also have the attendance officers, and so they come and check in at our schools for us a lot, and we give them mailers like these address informations, and they go to the homes. And just for kids who have habitual absences on my campus, my attendance clerk, she prepares these letters and these cards, and the attendance officer will hand deliver them to the home. And if there's no one, they'll tag the door. If no one answers it, if someone answers, they're like, hey, the school's trying to get in touch with you. Here's the information. Can you call them? If the kid is ready and dressed, they'll put the kid in the car and bring him to the school for us.
Wow.
And so, we do have some things here that do work, I must say. Within our schools, we all have some type of an attendance incentive or attendance program, outreach of some sort. And so, plus the district resources as well. So we really do work hard as best we can with targeting the attendance issues in our valley.
Sure. Well, back east, I know in Prince George's County, when I was there as director of school security several years ago, one of the trends in the state of Maryland was we were moving away from criminalizing things. There was more of an effort to move those not those serious offenses. I'm not talking about if you carried a weapon in the school or something on that level, but some of the more minor things that young people get involved with that could very easily lead to criminalization. We were moving towards more mediation and community service and, just those types of options with the same type of involvement. We had community members. We had one of the judges back there, Judge Dawson, who was just amazing with the things and the creative alternatives that he used to provide for those young people who are involved in those things. Is that the trend out in the West in terms of moving more towards not trying to have these kids have a criminal record because they were engaged in something that technically was a crime for minor things, not major things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that our district is moving into this year is a partnership with the Juvenile Justice Division.
Sure.
And so what we've been doing is we've referred our children to what's called the Harbor. And the Harbor is a way, sometimes our school police, in lieu of giving a citation for a student who's done some sort of a crime, something that, has warranted police activity, sometimes they'll write it off if they go take these classes at the Harbor. And the Harbor offers, I personally don't work for them, and it's not part of the Clark County School District, but they offer a variety of classes on, substance abuse and how to parent. And there's classes for the parents and the kids.
Wow.
Just different.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of classes and, just things that are helpful for the children. So a lot of times they do that as like a first step. Now, Harbor can't be like a habitual referral, but it is something that, kids in our valley and their parents are really taking advantage of. And so they're starting to push it into all of our schools district-wide over the course of this next school year.
Wow, that's very impressive. And,
yeah.
and is that information being publicized?
It is. If you go to the ccsd.net website, you can find the information with the Clark County School District's partnership with the Juvenile Justice Division. And our division, the Education Services Division of the Clark County School District that deals with all of the alternative educational setting, my boss, Dr. Tammy Malich, and her team, Mr. Eric Gant, and several others, they have they've spearheaded this effort and they're running with it. And so they're pushing it into our very large district. As Amber mentioned earlier, we're one of the largest districts. We're the 5th largest school district in the nation. And so to push something like this into a district that size is huge. And so it's something that's rolling out as we speak. but I can't wait to see what the benefits are going to be, because hopefully it means that we'll have smaller numbers at the behavior school. We love our kids, but we want to see them learn how to succeed, in a comprehensive environment. When you get in trouble in the workforce, you don't just get a little time out over at another place for 9 weeks. No, you lose your job.
Sure.
So all of these skills are to help better our children, as they progress and become adults.
Well, as you move through the country and you're asking, and I know you all do a lot of benchmarking and those types of things, but what is, if you had to make a top 3 list, what are your top 3 things that you would say most frustrate your teachers?
Most frustrate? Oh gosh, that's a hard one. I would say probably the ever-changing contract. It's hard to keep adults happy sometimes, just because of the frustrations that they have outside of their jobs that kind of trickle in. So I would say definitely some of the nuances of their contracts, certain types of meetings and certain types of stipulations to get pay raises that come with all of that. That's definitely probably high on the list. As far as then here on the campus, I would say maybe just students who don't take what they're trying to, who don't receive what we're trying to give. Obviously we can't reach all of them, but we can certainly try to reach them all. And so I think that becomes frustrating for my staff when they feel like they've worked with students for so long, and they still just continue to make poor decisions. So I said that's 2. And maybe the third, we have a really cohesive staff. It took a long time to get there. So it's hard to
That was a question.
figure out.
Well, that was a question that I had about staffing, and is it hard to keep good folks, because they're hard to find, and then once you find them, they become hard to keep, and they move on or they move up, and it leaves the gaping hole in your program sometimes. Not your particular program, but just in general, I hear that a lot. And no matter how many incentives you have to bring people in, to have them teach in these areas, what they end up doing it kind of like folks going into the service. They do their time and then they move on somewhere else. So you're constantly reinventing yourself and having to restaff and start all over again. Do you find do you have a problem with that where you are in particular, or have you learned to work through that or around that?
This is my 5th year as a principal, and I actually don't have a very high turnover anymore at this point. I've kind of grown my staff. We're like a family, if you will. That first year when you come in and, you kind of crack the whip, and it's like, okay, we're going to focus on academics. Academics? What? Oh, we don't do that here. They just come in here and they get a packet. Oh, well, no, we're going to do labs, and we're going to get on the LCD projector, and we're going to have our kids outside of the room doing these things. And, so it was a big shift, when I first came into to the behavior school realm. And once we worked out those kinks and we find people that are kind of on the same page, here for the kids first,
right?
Then,
right.
We're able to build. My staff is amazing. They come early, they stay late. All of our students at the behavior school are searched. When they come to school, I have a team of teachers and support staff that search every kid every day. And the other half of my staff is doing supervision and interacting and mingling with kids while they eat breakfast before they start their day, just to kind of get them off on the right foot. And so, you have to have people who are willing to do that. So when I interview, that is one of the things that I look for. Like, are you willing to be a part of the team? Like, you may be an amazing math teacher, but are you going to work for the children at this school? And so I think that's what administrators need to look for when they're interviewing. Are you going to work for this population of students that you plan to service?
And I know that you touched on this earlier, but I really just want to, put it out there, because I think that this is something that a lot of people overlook when it comes to the different student environments and the success of students. So how important is parent involvement And if you see a child who from the get-go doesn't really have that support from home, like when they go, you know, they could be doing really well in class, but they get a test or something, they're not doing good because their parents aren't going over it, or their parents don't show up to the PTA meetings and stuff like that. What can be done to kind of guide those kids in the right direction if they don't necessarily have that structure at home?
Great question.
You know, we provide it here. We become like surrogate parents on this campus. You know?
I bet.
We have safe places for kids to go and meet with other adults and get that extra little one-on-one tutoring. Unfortunately, because of the location of my campus and the students that we service, we don't have after-school programming. Every one of my students receive a bus if they're at least 2 miles from my campus. And that, for my campus, that's about 96 or 7%.
Oh, wow.
So everyone's bussed in unless their parent decides they want to drop them off that day. And so it's really hard to, we don't have the huge parent involvement. I can, for one, say that I can count on maybe one hand every other year how many parents actually will come and sit in a class with their students, even after the offer has been put out there. You know, a lot of times by the time our kids get here, the parents are tired of dealing with the school because they've been there so many times for disciplinary reasons. And so it's almost like a restructuring up of the mind of the parent, you know, when we get a kid as well. So we have to work for the kid and work with the parent as well. And so every one of our children, though, to come to school here before they can attend the first day, the parent and the child has to sit through an orientation with my counseling team, and they go over like the requirements of the school and transportation and, you know, how to get in and out of this campus successfully, and, you know, the nuances of being enrolled in the behavior school. And so every child we meet the parent at least once before the child starts. So, and that's a requirement.
So for a kid that, you know, hasn't made it to a place like your school yet. So, for example, if it's just somebody who's in a regular elementary school or middle school or high school, and, you know, the teacher's kind of noticing that they're kind of slacking, they try to make a meeting with the parents aren't really being responsive, except for, you know, when it's really super, super mandatory, like, let's say, like the first day or something. Before the child gets to the point where they need to go to a behavioral school, are there things in place in the regular schools to kind of help the student there?
That's a good question, and it just varies on the school and who the administration is and what their focuses are at those respective schools.
Gotcha.
I know me personally and my counseling team and my social workers, we actually go out into the schools as well. When our children are released, we go out and we follow our kids and transition with them.
Good.
And so I've
awesome.
had principals call me and say, hey, can you come by my school and see so-and-so? And so while I'm there, I'll see so-and-so's buddies as well. You know, just,
they're like,
so we don't end up with him and his friends at my school. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, Principal Morentek,
we do provide those services from my school personally. But each of the schools, it just depends on what they have on their campuses, unfortunately.
Sure. Well, I can tell you, Principal Morentek, you've lit up our chat room. And
have I?
Yes, you have. And let me share with you, I'm looking at one comment that says that, in essence, that leadership starts from the top, and, you know, they can sort of see why you are successful where you are. And then there's another chat question that was asking, do you have a parent liaison at your school? You do?
I do.
Okay.
My social worker, Simi Mitchell, she deals with a lot of my parent liaison stuff because, again, she's able to do more outside resources, getting outside tutoring, getting outside. So she does more of my community outreach. Plus, she also happens to be a radio personality, so she, you know, has access to resources outside of the school. So she does a lot more of my parent liaison work. Sure.
Well, I'm going to leave this last thought with you because we're slowly winding down here. But what would you say if someone moves into your community and says, you know, I'm looking at all these schools, I'm looking at Bishop Gorman, I'm looking at all these other places. Why would I want to put my child in a public school versus sending them to a private or a parochial school or a charter school? What would you say to that parent?
You know, I would say to that parent, great things happen at every school, but I would definitely, you know, take the option of putting their child in a public school because, you know, really if the parent is involved, the child's going to be successful no matter where they're at.
Okay. Okay.
Good point.
That's a great point. Great. And